In the fall of 2026, the University of Wyoming is launching a new master's degree in organizational leadership. Dr. Guyla Greenly has developed a course for the degree called Leadership, Identity, and Authentic Practice. She invited me to serve as the guest expert during the week the students consider their blind spots and saboteurs in leadership. Join me behind the scenes for our interview.
All right, well, this week we're working on saboteurs and blind spots, and we have a special guest with us today, Libby Tedder-Hughes, and she is a mental fitness coach, and so welcome, Libby.
Thank you, Guyla. What a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and I'm sure our students will really appreciate this deeper knowledge, and so let's start with having you just share a little bit about yourself and what got you into the field that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you all are taking a moment to deep dive and expose the way that our blind spots and our saboteurs work against us. It was 2021. It was the year that we were all reeling post-pandemic, and I was going through some certification processes in my coaching business. And a friend of mine was like, hey, there is this company that's giving away grant-funded experiences for coaches. It's called Positive Intelligence. I think you would love it. And I was like, free learning, yes, please. And so I took the course, and Guyla, it was like I had a complete 180 relationship to my own brain in recognizing why my brain was my own bully. Why my brain was working against me in all of these ways that I was putting out effort to be the best leader, the best business owner, the best nonprofit facilitator, the best parent, spouse, friend, the list goes on, that I could be, where I constantly felt like I was on a treadmill working against myself. So when I figured that out, when I learned that there was a pretty simple neurobiological way to relate to my own brain differently, that's when I got on the mental fitness coaching track. And I thought to myself, this is what I want to do. This is my sweet spot. I already knew that coaching was a happy place for me and that I was a really effective coach. But the positive intelligence operating system changed my relationship to my brain, and I wanted to gift that to other people.
Wonderful. So when you're talking about these saboteurs, what is a saboteur?
Absolutely. Okay. So do you know that feeling when you approach a building that you're super familiar with and it has a push-pull door, but you're on autopilot, you're thinking about other things and you're distracted and you've got a list a mile long, and you suddenly realize that you've been pushing for 30 seconds and then you look down and the label clearly says pull. We can all relate. We've done that before, right? Well, this is a metaphor for what the saboteurs are in our brain. Because the saboteurs are subconscious habits that live inside of us that keep us looping in automatic brain.
Okay.
Another way to think about it is like evolutionarily, our brains have fear brain and higher thinking brain, survival brain and thrive brain. So the saboteurs are these highly attuned and very effective ways to keep us safe, because the evolutionary brain is really developed to use the least energy possible to keep us the safest at all times.
Right.
So those voices in our brain, the saboteurs, the ones that are working against us, are overcranked, overused natural strengths. So let me give you an example of one saboteur, and then you see if this makes sense to you. One example of a saboteur is the pleaser. So the pleasers works against you by saying you have to meet everybody's needs around you before you can meet your own. Or you need to make sure that everybody around you is feeling safe and comfortable and that they know that they're loved before you are worthy of love. Well, that's the overcranked sabotage version of a natural underlying strength. And the natural underlying strength is empathy. So
okay.
in my world, pleaser's very high on my saboteur assessment results. But I am a natural empath. I can read people's feelings really easily. So I need to take the overcranked high volume version of pleaser and bring it back into neutral equilibrium with my thriving brain.
Okay.
So that it's not working against me. Our saboteurs work against the most efficient, highest use of our energy.
Yeah, and we hear a lot about the phrase self-sabotage, and it sounds like that's one way where we can take something that's a strength in us, but when it's out of alignment, makes it a way that we can self-sabotage.
Great point. Great point. Where my head goes in that is about thinking about the research that Shirzad Shamin, who developed the positive intelligence operating system, what goes into that research. He did all of this really incredible factor analysis. There's over 1 million participants that have participated in the research now from over 50 countries. So this is very much a globally researched project. And what his factor analysis showed is that there's 9 total saboteurs in the world, with 1 universal saboteur over the top, which is called the judge. So some of us might call this the imposter syndrome or the inner critic. There's multiple ways to talk about it, but that self-sabotage comes from those 9 archetypal versions of sabotage that are working against us.
Okay. So how do you identify what your saboteurs are and why? I mean, I think we've touched a little bit on why it's important to.
Yeah.
But just if you could expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the identification comes from the practice of self-observation. So this is why this coursework and what you as students are working on right now is really, really critical. So here's what I mean about self-observation. The power of the pause button in our relationship to our own brains, and therefore how it translates into our leadership, is the ability to hit pause when our brains have hit the hot stove of a negative emotion. Okay? So if I'm cooking in my kitchen and I absent-mindedly touch a hot stove while I'm over here working on something else, the second I hit the hot stove, my evolutionary brain says, pick up, leave the heat. And the value of leaving the heat is that I don't fry my personal skin.
Right, yeah.
So when we're looking to identify our own saboteurs, what we need to do is we need to have the power of self-observation that allows us to hit the pause when we've hit negative emotion. So negative emotion happens anywhere and everywhere all day long, right? Stress, procrastination, self-doubt, all kinds of things happen in our day. We spill a cup of coffee when we're headed out the door. The dog needs to use the bathroom before we have that important meeting, or whatever it is. All the way up to bigger things like I'm going to fail on said project, or I'm not going to be able to lead said thing. So when we pause, we begin to identify what the saboteurs are and their voices and lies in our head. So the positive intelligence system, you all will take the free saboteur, or you already have taken the free saboteur assessment in this course. It's going to help you identify those patterns. From then on out, you hit pause when anything negative comes in, and then you can say, oh, I witnessed that hypervigilant is active again. Or I can see the pattern of the controller right now. Or wow, avoider really just stepped in when fill in the blank negative thing happened. So that power of self-observation is available to us when we can hit pause on the negative reaction.
And how do you suggest hitting pause in the midst of all of those busy things that you just mentioned, and when you're in the middle of, if it happens in the middle of a meeting or, a very busy work day? Yeah,
okay, great question. I'm going to give a model that I use in any variety of length of time, whether it's I have time to really deep dive what just happened, or I'm in the middle of the stressful meeting and I have to react now. This is called the stop, drop, and roll of mental fitness.
Okay.
So just like the fire department used to teach us, stop, drop, and roll when your clothes are on fire, we went to pause, adjust, and pull when our brain is on fire. So that can happen in a 10-second space. Let me give you an example. I'm in the meeting and somebody challenges a project idea that I've brought, and I'm really proud of this idea, and they're second guessing whether it's going to work. I feel controller rise, and in my head, what I do is I pay attention to the sensation in my body. Some quick ways to do it are a finger to a thumb. This is called a positive intelligence rep. So this is repping the muscle change for your brain to get you out of survival brain and into physical sensation.
Okay.
Or I pause and I listen to the environment around me. I take a breath, even in the heightened moment. I take a breath and I listen to the ticking clock, or I listen to the humming motor on my computer, or I listen to somebody else's voice. So you can use hearing, you can use physical sensation, or you can use sight. So I look at the pretty picture on the wall for 10 seconds. What this does is it pauses the negative emotion. I get to adjust the volume of survival brain.
Okay.
And then I get to pull with my sage brain. I get to pull with my thriving brain. So that's a 10-second version that just lifts you out of automatic reaction. And then the pause, adjust, and pull of mental fitness can be applied in any length of time after you leave the meeting, when you're conversing with a trusted coach or a trusted mentor or a spouse or a friend later. You can then go through those 3 steps again to pause, adjust, and pull to live on the solution side of that saboteur.
Okay, great. So once we've identified our saboteurs and we've learned some of these tools, how do you see us applying this in our real world? In the, you just gave us a short example.
Yeah.
But if you can expand a little bit more on why is this so important to us as leaders?
Yeah.
And how can we apply it in our leadership roles?
So to further the mental fitness metaphor, the goal of applying this in the long term is building out the muscle memory that we have to keep strengthening our possibility as a leader. So here's what I mean by that. In the same way that any skill set that we ever learn in our life is a matter of learning it, trying it, failing at it, practicing at it, and getting better. We have muscle memory built out in every area of our life. We don't think about brushing our teeth.
Right.
We go to the cupboard, we get the toothbrush, put the toothpaste on, and spend the 2 minutes brushing the teeth. That's muscle memory. So the way that mental fitness and saboteur awareness works in our leadership is we keep building out the muscle memory of the pause. There's this really beautiful quote by a psychologist that survived World War II, Viktor Frankl, where he says that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our choice to respond. And in our response is our growth and our freedom. So what leader doesn't want to be a growing, free leader? So mental fitness then is the ability to keep the muscle memory going around I can pause, I can adjust, and I can pull with my thriving brain. I can quiet my survival brain. So one more analogy then would be like volume control. The way that you apply mental fitness in your life is by daily practicing turning down those overactive saboteurs that you're now becoming more and more aware of and more familiar with, so that your positive brain, your solution-oriented brain, your thriving brain has greater volume and capacity to be the one that's at the microphone in your life.
So it's really a great way to help us move from being reactive to being active in our leadership.
Great, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And active how? Active by responding from your calmest, clear-headed, laser-focused self. Not your automatic looping self, not your fear brain self.
Right, yeah.
Reactive brain is survival brain. Responsive brain is higher thinking brain.
That's great. I mean, I love all this stuff, and I'm obviously a geek about it with doing this whole class. I just find great value in all of this.
Yes.
Do you have any examples of that you could give of somebody like working with people, maybe where they were beforehand and where they came to after going through this process?
Yeah, I would love to share. 2 examples are coming to mind, and I'll make them quick. The first one was a very capable, very outwardly successful leader, owner and operator of literally a multi-million-dollar law firm who had attorneys and paralegals and admins and marketers and CFOs and all sorts of people under him. But even though he was outwardly successful, he was stuck on a roller coaster inside of himself of worst case scenario.
Oh.
So even though he projected to the world, successful leader, multiple employees under him, making money in the world, beautiful family, even though he was projecting that outwardly, inwardly, he was constantly on that roller coaster of, I'm going to end up homeless under a bridge with nothing left.
That's extreme.
So when we started working together, I brought him through the mental fitness experience and the positive intelligence operating system. And what he began to realize was that behind every stimulus to use the language earlier, behind every challenge coming into him was a gift and an opportunity. And if he could build out that pause for himself, which he did in coaching with me, if he could build out that pause for himself, he didn't have to listen to the worst case scenario roller coaster. He could listen to the him that had all of this proof that his success was from his best self. So that's one of my favorite examples. And then another one that's coming to mind is a client of mine who, again, another successful leader, another successful business owner who had multiple places where she was leading as a business coach herself, as a real estate investor, and as a house development flipper. But when she came to me, her judge, her inner critic, was like a bullhorn loud, like was just yelling at her constantly that she wasn't good enough, that she wasn't successful enough, that she was never going to amount to anything, and yet she had this track record. So her example is that what she was able to do was she was able to say to the judge, I see you, but you are a liar. Your sabotage of my well-being is not worth it anymore. And so I'm going to take your volume and I'm going to turn it way, way down. And what she told me, we literally just had a conversation about this 2 weeks ago. She said, without you, I didn't know that the negative voices in my brain were ruling my life. And she's like, I get it now. And now my judge isn't in charge.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because I mean, who of us doesn't hear those negative things telling us that we're not enough, or maybe they're real low, or maybe they're controlling, like the example that you gave. But we all have some form of that negativity roll, some tapes. I've heard it said as the tape that goes on in your head, running over and over again.
Yes.
And learning to control that or ignore that, and and when it's been going on since our childhood, it can be really difficult. So
I think the average leader can't hear themselves over that white noise in their brain. And mental fitness is like, I can now put on my noise canceling headphones so that I can hear the internal true voice and tune into that voice so that I lead from that voice and not the negative voices.
Yeah, love that. anything else that you would like to share with us? We have a couple of more minutes here.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So let me think about ways that I think if I were in a course like this, ways that I would want to apply this. I think the way that we can successfully or easily apply the mental fitness principle, another avenue is through empathy. So not only does mental fitness help us recognize and begin to see the patterns of our inner saboteurs, those places that have been overactively telling us how to live our lives and we've just been blindly obeying them because evolutionary brain is oriented towards safety. But we've also begun to internalize their lies about who we are. So empathy is a really powerful way to flip the script on self-sabotage voices. So a really easy and fun way to do this, I think, is by accessing our inner 5-year-old or the inner 5-year-old of the person who's activating our saboteurs.
Oh,
because this is an interesting thing about leadership, right? It's not just the internal voices that are happening, but it's the mirror neuron dynamic that's happening either interpersonally or in a system, inside of a workplace, inside of a organization, inside of a club, etc. And so you can imagine your own inner 5-year-old to activate empathy for yourself, and you can imagine the inner 5-year-old of the other person. And so there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. On the fly in a heated scenario, it might not be as easy as sort of doing it later, where there's like, let's pretend that there's a particular person that you're trying to lead that is just coming at you with resistance. They're coming at you with patterns of self-sabotage. And so in a private space later, you can begin to imagine them with freckles. You can begin to imagine what their absolute favorite game to play was as a kid, what their voice would have sounded like, what their hair would have looked like. And immediately we have empathy for children, right? Because children haven't been hardened by rigid saboteur habits that have gotten stuck in our bodies. And then the next time you encounter that difficult to lead person, you can, within yourself, create distance between the saboteurs that are coming at you in their adult body and the precious version of themselves that's worthy of empathy right then and there. So we can apply that to others and we can apply that to ourselves, right? Thinking about the us that existed before those rigid neural pathways had set in, and thinking to ourselves, oh my goodness, I remember laying on the grass as a 5-year-old and looking up at the clouds and wondering what shapes they were and thinking about riding as a unicorn on the clouds. What would that version of myself need or want today that would help me lead more effectively?
Yeah, I think that's powerful. And I like that go from the looking internally, but to also being able to look at it externally in our relationships. Because there's a lot of importance in doing the internal work. I mean, obviously, from this whole course, we're really doing a lot of the internal work, but then we have to look outward and apply it to the people that we're working with as well in order to be truly effective, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, Libby, thank you so much for taking the time to share this wisdom with our students, and we look forward to running into you again.
Absolutely, Guyla. Thank you for the opportunity. I wish you well. I wish you students well as you learn to apply these awareness patterns and begin to build out the muscle memory of the pause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Most visionary leaders can't hear themselves over the negative voices in their brain, convincing them to play small, hustle harder, prove their worth, and hide their true needs. I get it. For years, the negative voices were at the controls in my brain too, until I found a simple neurobiological way to quiet fear brain. My most compassionate self is at the microphone now. I am obsessed with giving my clients noise-canceling headphones for negative brain, so so you can hear yourself over the fear. I've helped thousands of humans stop wasting precious energy on self-doubt and stress and learn to trust themselves in every decision. Are you ready to noise cancel the negative voices? Start your mental fitness journey today. Click the link below.